Hi, everyone. Hopefully you can hear me, see me. That was weird. Let me share my slides. Oh, let me get all these people in. I don't know if I'm supposed to be the host, Melissa, but I just kind of took over. Uh, there we go. Can everybody see my slides? Let me open the chat so that I can see that. There we go. Okay. It's the type A in me, Melissa. So hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me today. I am very, very fortunate to be presenting today on behalf of the Academic Success Center, specifically the Science Center, and the folks over in the science department in MAPS. And I really appreciate you all coming to hear my talk. So I will get it underway. So I am presenting today. The title of my talk is Unexpected Balance and Wisdom, How Autism Refined My Core, Redefined My Core. It refined it too, I think. Redefined my core. I am Barbara Green. I am the assistant chair of the English and Rhetoric Department. And I'm also a PhD student. And I'm mentioning that because it's going to come into play near the end of my talk. So today I plan on chatting. Here's the agenda, if you will, about him. And him is my son, about me, because it's important, about balance, wisdom, and then the application of said balance and wisdom. So that's the goal anyway. Him. So I'm going to try to keep it together because when I talk about my son, it can go a bunch of different ways, as I know that some of the moms of autistic kids who are present here today, I'm sure know. Um, my son is autistic, proudly autistic, wonderfully autistic. His name is Asher, and there he is, very thoughtfully looking at the Columbus, Ohio skyline in a very recent trip to Ohio. He is well, I'm kind of skipping ahead. So a little bit about Asher, and I know that some of my colleagues who are here today have gotten the chance to interact with him and his love of Monty Python, and among other things. He is hilarious. I like to describe him as, I don't know, a 70-year-old man in the body of an 11-year-old. He's an old soul, and he's wicked smart. Um, he is in advanced math, and he's one of those kids who actually his ABA therapist, they have a game that, to unwind, he sits down at the piano and she just pulls a song out of a hat. Like the other day, she said, play the Pirates of the Caribbean song, and he'll just cock his head to the side and think a minute, and then he starts playing it on the piano. So he's one of those kids, and he loves video games. He's currently obsessed with anime and music, like I said. So yeah, video games and anime and music. Oh my. Um, he's been playing video games since he was really little, and I know that some people might roll their eyes at that, and that's fair. But he, in addition to autism, as autism does come with a lot of little side branches, right? Some autistic kids also are ADHD. Some have other areas that are lacking, for lack of a better term. My son has, or I don't even know if it's had or has, a fine motor delay in his hands. So I found that video games really helped. And so he's been doing appropriate video games since he's been very, very young. In terms of his autism, he is high functioning. And I put there on the slide that it's a blessing and a curse. A blessing because, he's wonderful. I love the way he looks at the world, even with all of the things that he's got going on, which I will talk about in a minute. And again, he's verbal, almost too verbal a little bit. But it is a curse in that he slips through the cracks. He slips through the cracks a lot, um, because he is seen more as a neurotypical child with behavior issues. So that's the stamp that's been put on him more often than I would like to think about, um, by teachers, specifically by teachers. I even had, and he was pushed out of his original school that he was in from K through 3. He was very forcefully pushed out while still minding the law. Um, but when your high functioning, super smart kid gets threatened to be put in a contained classroom with the biters and the hitters, you know, it is what it is. But anywho, um, one of his aides, who became a dear, dear friend, mentioned at one site we had left the school and we had found a new home for Asher, that the second grade teacher had told her that she didn't buy for 1 second that Asher was autistic and that he was just a bad seed and that he just, needed, behavioral help. So that is why I call it a curse, because he is so wonderful. He is so social, so engaging. His superpower, oh, you don't even know, Sarah. I had to work really hard for the hoops not to come off, you know? Yeah. Yeah. So, it is, and I know that there are children there, I know that curses is difficult. So it can be difficult to hear because there are kids that are in, it's all subjective, right? I can say in worse places, in different places, but it is because he is so high functioning that he constantly gets mislabeled. He constantly gets judged. I've lost friendships over it. I've had trouble with my family over it because I am, and this I'll get to when I get to me, but I'm first generation Mexican American. So most of all of my family, for the most part, is in Mexico. And so in our culture, autism isn't a thing. In my culture, and this is what I heard from my aunt, who just passed away, so I feel terrible saying this, but she said, that he just needs a good spanking. So, it's a thing. It's something that I've struggled on many fronts with. So high function is, yeah, for sure, Christine. I can totally understand that. It's what is, and then especially for females, right? I hope somebody down the road does a talk about that because, you know, um, females mask autism so well. Oh, I want to be there. I need to put it on my calendar because I miss Sarah's. Okay, perfect. Don't let me forget, Christine. All right. So some of his obstacles, are meltdowns. All right. He explodes with changes to his routine, the insertion of the unexpected, sensory overload, specifically school. School is a setting that, because he's a different kid here at home, he's a different kid out in the, at a store, anywhere, but it's school that really challenges him. So he struggles with those things. And right now, particularly math, because he is, for whatever reason, and I could talk about this all day, he's a sixth grader, but he's currently doing seventh and eighth grade math. Why they've decided to jam 2 years into one via Zoom, no less, I don't understand, but I digress. So math is a trigger right now. He also struggles with having too much empathy. He doesn't know what to do with all that he feels. Typically, when someone is in peril, danger, sad, angry, he doesn't know how to deal with it. He also has no stranger danger. He could be standing next to a serial killer, and you know what? He'll engage and want to talk about video games. And he has no edit button. He says what pops into his mind. And right now, with an 11, almost 12-year-old kid who's started puberty and has learned about birds and bees, that's a challenge. It would not be a dull conversation, Sarah, at all. Um, and another thing, and it isn't an obstacle, but he has an absolute, and I know it sounds biased because I'm his mom, but It is what it is. He has a beautiful perspective on everything. I have learned so much from him, just looking through his eyes and walking with him. And this one quote there that just I remember when Michael walked into our house and we spent, a little time getting to know him. And this was the first nugget that he left me with that I want to put it on a shirt. I want to give it to everyone, not autistic folks, everyone else. um, you can't change the world for Asher, but we can teach Asher to be successful in the world he lives in. The school constantly wants to change the world for Asher instead of just, giving him the tools to help him be successful. And yeah, so this is it. This is all. And it's wonderful. And so ABA is kind of the focus of what has kind of opened my world up a little bit. Now let's talk about me a little bit because it's important. So there's our family. This is the only frontal picture of faces because I guard my children desperately. So this is a gift to you all. This is my family. This was us at Halloween, this last Halloween. We're all weirdos, okay? And that's why we dressed up as the Addams family this year, or this last year. Thank you. So that's Asher there on the left, my husband, of course, me as Morticia, and my daughter as Wednesday. Me, I mean, Barbara, the what's the word? I always get the origin of the word. I can't think of the word. Come on, academics, help me. EP something. My brain is fried. I'm sick. I have a cold. Anywho, the origin of Barbara means, yeah, epitome. I can't. No, I can't. I'll be here all day. Barbara means strange. All right, so it comes from that's the origin of it. If you search that up, so there you go. It fits me to a T. I am a minority. Like I said, I didn't learn how to speak English until I got tossed into kinder. I am, and I am what I'm about to say about being an introvert. I credit my wonderful colleague Linnell, who we had a very long conversation yesterday about being an introvert. I am a proud, raging introvert. I am type A, and I put Asperger's question mark. I was assessed not too long ago, and I am hopefully going to be reassessed because I kind of am on like the one side of the spectrum myself. And so I'm just looking for that formal diagnosis just to have it because it would explain a lot. And I had a lot of really interesting conversations with the doctor who we started that with. Yeah, indeed, Stephanie. And again, because I am a female and I know that I mask, whether I am fully on the spectrum or a part of it or right next to it or whatever to it, I know I mask. That is key. That's one of my superpowers. My son's superpower is that he is crazy charming. So it's important to know these things about me because as I have grown with my son, as he has grown, as I have been with him, I knew he was different from the start, even though obviously verbal, brilliant, all of it. Sorry, my nose is running and I didn't grab a tissue. I'm so sorry. One of my other superpowers is my power of observation, and that was actually something that the doctor who started the evaluation process with me really focused on. That's kind of my jam, I'm like uber observant. And so watching him, I knew he was different. And I've learned a lot. And just sitting here at my desk, sometimes white knuckling my desk as ABA happens, from time to time, I listen and I say, just because there's a lot of parallels with, my son and I are different. But there are a lot of parallels, social parallels. And just some of the things like when something, disrupts my schedule, I struggle a lot. When something unexpected gets dumped into my lap, depending on what it is, I struggle a lot. So things like that. So I'm uniquely me. I'm a mom, 3 kids, 2 are living. I did have a miscarriage before Asher. My one child is autistic. My other child is has ADHD, and I'm an alpha wolf, grizzly, mama bear, lioness, whatever you want. That's me as a mom. Um, all I wanted to be more than an academic, more than anything, was a mom. And as an academic, I suffer from a huge, I grapple with the imposter syndrome monster. And I love to learn. As a matter of fact, in the conversation I was having yesterday with my colleague, we both talked about wanting to be professional students. Is that a thing? Asking for a friend. So, why is all of this important? Well, because just listening and learning about me through my son, learning about my son, and then adding a daughter into the mix, right? I so would do it. And I would never retire, Christine. My husband says, once you're done with your PhD, what else? What's the next degree? And I'm like, I don't know, med school, just for fun. I wouldn't like practice or anything. Balance is important in a lot of ways. And the two main things that I wanted to talk about today are the protection instinct that we as parents or caregivers or just someone who has a close relationship to an autistic child likely has. Right, Stephanie? I'm in heaven right now on my PhD. Even though the workload's insane, I'm in heaven. So yeah, the mama bear. And to touch on a stereotype, and I say it with pride, us Latinas, I'm telling you, at least for me. Yeah, mama bear. Please don't poke mama bear. And just there's that part, and then there's the you'll shoot your eye out. I mean, I helicoptery, and then there's that balance between be careful versus go and do all of the things, go explore, go. So that's definitely, and that picture there is a perfect encapsulation, because when I saw them doing this is at the at COSI, and I can't remember what it stands for. It's the Columbus something of science, and I don't know. It's COSI. It's the science museum. That's very well renowned. But again, my brain is drawing a blank on many things today. So we were there for this picture, and it's an echo well. And so they were like practically, you can see my daughter. She's my pick on First Broken Bone. They were kind of climbing into it, and it took everything I had to not yell out, "Please stop! You're gonna fall in or hurt yourself." So protection instinct, especially when you have neurodivergent children, that's something that's on my radar, because for the first part of his life, I protected him a lot, perhaps too much. And it's one of the things that I'm very cognizant about now, because I need them to go out and experience the world and try things on for size and scrape their knees and triumphantly do things. And then gosh, I lost my train of thought of where I was going with that. But also, and that, has also been holding back my need to teach them to fish. Teach a man to fish, they eat forever. Give a man a fish, they just eat for that day, right? So I have been embracing the teach them to fish. Whoops, sorry, I was trying to admit this person and I messed with the slide. Sorry about that. Oops, whoops, whoops. There we go. So right now I'm currently in the white knuckling it now for payoff later phase. Again, Asher does not look both ways when he crosses the street, even now. Maybe out of 10, he'll do it 3 times because he's in his own world, thinking about adventures or whatever. And I've had them start walking home. Now, granted, we live across the street from the school-ish, so there's that. But teaching them to fish is so important. And then, of course, the line from Batman Begins, "Why do we fall, Master Bruce?" So that we all learn, right? Every time we fall. So we've been trying to kind of foster that in our children and go explore and stay curious. Are the things that we are trying to find balance with. And by we, I mean, of course, my husband and myself, but mostly me, because I am a control freak. I am a closet helicopter parent. And I'm trying to keep that parent at bay. Um, because balance is important. Now, the wisdom comes into play in that while both of my children are neurodivergent, they are very different. Um, and I've learned a lot, especially, and I'm very grateful that I got my autistic child first because everything about him is different. He marches to the beat of his own drum in every way, shape, and form, even to the point of how he learns. I'm convinced that he doesn't learn. This kid is like, and that's not a bad thing. I'm not saying that in a negative way. With him, it's always been a light switch getting turned on. That's how it's always been. There's never been that progression, like, okay, crawl, then walk, then run. No, Asher has always gone from sitting there to running at whatever he does, from potty training to drinking out of a sippy cup to everything, to reading. This kid has been reading since he was 3. Um, and at first I thought he had just memorized the book. But anyway, and that's, he the learning styles are something that, well, and the thing is, Christine, he doesn't try, he doesn't practice, he refuses to practice. And both of my kids have that perfectionism streak in them. I don't know where they get it. Just saying. Um, I've never seen him, when he tries, he gets aggravated. That's typically a trigger for him for a meltdown. Like with writing, with the fine motor delay, writing was always a trigger. Just recently did we actually conquer that one. And I'm sure it'll rear its head every now and then, but his penmanship was abysmal. I could barely read it, and he hated to write by hand because his brain was going too fast for his hand to keep up. So when there isn't something immediate, and right now he is struggling with math because he has to do steps. We're doing advanced algebra and geometry and things like that. So this, because he's always done math in his head. I mean, crazy math. I mean, he solves crazy stuff in his head that blows my mind. But now, I'm trying to, and ABA and myself are trying to get him to write down the steps. That way, if he doesn't get the end answer right, the final answer right, he can go back and try to find where it is rather than having to redo the whole thing. Yeah, and I don't know that, it's funny because he took an assessment recently, Christine, and he came out of his room triumphant. He's like, Mom, I miss paper. And I'm like, well, you can do stuff on paper. You don't have to be attached to the computer. But anyway, his learning style is very different. And the reason I share a little bit about me, because learning styles are important here in terms of wisdom. My learning style is I'm a visual person, which tracks if I'm uber observant. I need to see everything. And when I see it, I learn it. When I touch it, I'm hands-on. What's the let's see again, I can't even think about the academic words. I'm a do it. I'm a muscle memory gal. And my son, for me, the worst kind of thing that you can do is tell me something. Like people who like to verbally tell me directions, by the second word, I'm out. I have no idea what you're talking about. I will get lost to going to wherever it is that you're taking me to. No worries, Sarah. Go forth and be an awesome mama. Say hi to the boys and your daughter. So auditory is my least developed sense in terms of learning or taking in information. That's my son's strongest. He is an auditory learner from top to bottom. As a matter of fact, he got supplemental assessment at school not too long ago, and they deemed him, I mean, they were blown away by his level of like the short-term auditory memory. He can memorize everything, which tracks with the songs, that he can play. He just needs to think about how it sounds, and then he can play it. And so that completely contradicts the way I learn. So wanting him to learn the way I learn is not something that can happen. The same thing with my daughter. So they were the first, even though I've been teaching since before I became a mom, having these neurodivergent, wonderful little humans has really taught me to not only appreciate and acknowledge other learning styles, but to really like sit down with a knife and fork and get into how each learning style works and what works for them and what doesn't work for each, and so on and so forth, what they need to thrive. Um, my son thrives in chaos. When he's doing math in his room, he has the most annoying music playing, right? Okay, my son right now is currently into Weird Al, especially his polkas. Okay. I don't know if any of you've heard those, but and I love Weird Al, don't get me wrong. But trying to do math to that, I mean, it's like nails on a chalkboard for me. Um, and so, again, different needs. My son needs the ability to, like in geometry, if he gets all of these shapes and he's supposed to focus only on one, I need to highlight that shape so that he can pull it out from the mess. Whereas for me, that works for me. My daughter, the same. She needs to be able to sort things out. She is very sequential. She can't do anything out of order. So all of these things are very important in terms of giving me wisdom as a parent, as an academic, as an educator, and is very especially, very much so, the things that humans need to thrive. Um, each, also the thing that's been put on my radar as a mom to neurodiverse children is social emotional strengths and weaknesses. I am socially awkward. So, and an introvert. My daughter is an extrovert. She loves making friends. She wants to make all the friends. So that means play dates, and play dates are horrible for me. Um, I don't like engaging with moms to have to set those things up, especially when I immediately observe their body language and I know that I am not going to have anything to talk to them about, even when I try. Um, that's all really tough. And just so I've learned how to appreciate both children's social emotional strengths and weaknesses, and that has also translated into how I think about online learning and our students. Um, More to come on that as well. And then, of course, I've learned an all around just beauty in the wiring, whether it's neurodivergent wiring or neurotypical wiring. Everybody has something beautiful that they bring to the table. And making sure that we actively work in the classroom or just out in society to embrace that is something that's become very, very important to me. So when I meet people, I want to find their oddity, their weirdness, whatever adjective you want to use, that works for you. For me, we've worked to take away the negative power that words like weirdo and any word like that have, because my kids are weird and they're probably going to be called that at school, and so I want to take we've worked to take that power away from it as much as we can. I'm sure there will be other words. But anyway, all right, let me get to the next slide here. So we get to the application of it. So as I mentioned at the beginning, I am a PhD student. I'm currently wrapping up my second year. My goal is to be done with classes by next spring, and then I will dive. I'm already like diving into my dissertation, and everything that I'm doing in my classes is kind of feeding that, and I'm doing like the ultimate multitask, which I know is not a real thing based on some of the articles I've been reading. Um, but I'm all about working smarter, not harder. So a lot of the things that I'm doing in class overlap with um, what I want to do for my dissertation and what I do as assistant chair in the English and Rhetoric department. And so from the start of this journey, that's what it looks like. I'm sure all you the folks in the room who have their PhDs, I'm sure it might look even worse than the picture on the slide there, to get a PhD. But I knew that I wanted to do something with autism. Just because, again, at first I thought that I would be looking at the rhetoric used in just dissemination of information and overall communication from um, schools to parents in, K through whatever. Because when when we went through the process of my son getting pushed out and all of those things, and I, for the record, I am grateful for that whole experience because I learned a lot. It did poke my mama bear, and because I am wired the way that I am, I like routine. I like the sameness of things, and sometimes I struggle to get out of the routine even when it's beneficial to me. So that whole ordeal kind of shoved me to learn a lot more about advocacy, about laws here in Arizona, um, about um, the behind the curtain functionality of things like IEPs. Whoops, sorry, I'm trying to admit another person. There we go. Um, all the machination that is involved with having an autistic child and being in a school, a public school. So I thought about doing something with that. And then from there, I wasn't sure it was so big. And then it evolved into doing something with autism and first term students here at PG. But then I thought, well, I know I have a particular investment in autism, but I want to be even more inclusive. Um, so I got rid of the word autism and I just want to look at currently, its current incarnation is to I want to argue how purposeful applied behavioral analysis, which is ABA, philosophies, when applied, oh, there's a typo, sorry, as words and design as a foundation between words and design, um, as a word and design theory, can reinforce redirect behavior to yield student success in both neurodivergent and neurotypical first year adult learners in virtual writing courses. So I am currently looking at curriculum design, feedback design, and faculty outreach design. And again, design does mean both just words and the look of those words, whether it be white space, the use of white space, the use of bold, the use of italics, the things that are available to us, right? Some platforms you can't use a whole lot. You kind of got to work with what you have. Other times you can implement other things. So that's kind of what I am seeking to do. And my first thing that I did was it actually came from an assignment last summer. I took a document design class, and I love design. It's my playtime. It's how I decompress. It's how my mind sorts through all of the noise in my mind, because as an introvert, everything gets processed up here. Nothing comes out here. So it has to happen somehow. So design is it for me. And so anyway, I was charged with finding data of some kind. And, I'm a creative writer, so data freaks me out. Numbers freak me out. And I had to find data and then basically analyze it and put it into an infographic to deliver some kind of purpose. So I chose to look at discussion board data from, I can't remember what year now at this point. But I looked at a whole year's worth of data. It might have been 2022. For all of our tracks, just to see what I could find, see if I could find a gap somewhere. And I did. I found one in engagement where students have to respond to classmates. So I presented that and I showed our department chair and I said, look, I think that by doing this homework assignment, look at this gap. Can we do something about this? And I said, I would really like to work on the discussion rubric. Obviously instructions need to be fixed and so on and so forth. So that's how kind of it started a little bit. And so that was my first dipping my toe into curriculum design to make something that is visually as words and visual working to guide behaviors. How can we get students to be more confident um, and deliver information to them in a way that, whether they be autistic or ADHD or introvert, extrovert, whatever, to get them to participate and to know expectations. Well, that's so it's in play now, and so I'm very excited. I'm waiting for the year to happen so that I can look at that data again. And as assistant chair, I meet with faculty once a year in person, like just on Google Meet. And I pop into their course and I poke around and we talk about things. And I've been really focusing on feedback design. And as a matter of fact, I just saw some that I saw one of our faculty members is doing something very interesting with feedback design in Brightspace. And so I'm hoping to explore that a little bit more and see how that can change things. And so, I mean, it's huge. It's a huge undertaking because of, I mean, it's like trying to schedule a meeting here at PG, right? Trying to get a day and time that works for everyone is a really difficult thing. So trying to find some type of design that works for everyone is also a difficult thing. But what is very interesting to me is the application of ABA. Sorry, I did it again. And for those of you who may not be aware what ABA is, again, it is applied behavioral analysis, and it's basically a therapy for autistic individuals, mostly children, that kind of helps redirect behaviors. It helps, and Stephanie, help me out with this because my brain is mush today. It helps reinforce good behaviors and redirect not great behaviors, or help teach replacement behaviors for those kinds of things. Thank you. I'm really, this head cold, I don't even. So again, as I've been listening, because my son is going on 2.5 years of ABA now, and we're getting ready to wrap up in October for now. Is he cured? No, because there is no cure. But I said it that way because, again, a lot of the folks at school and a lot of the folks that we interact with feel like eventually he'll be cured. And yeah, I struggle with that. And even me, I struggle with it because I am again, I'm very type A. I'm a bulldozer. I will work something until I fix it. And that's my end goal, right? So anyway, so ABA is all about redirecting behaviors. And 2.5 years in, I am, well, sooner than that, I'm fervent that we all could use ABA, right? Those of us that procrastinate, what things could help us redirect that behavior? Those of us who say, okay, this Monday, I'm going to start eating really healthy and I'm going to start exercising. And we do it. Monday, we do it. Tuesday, we're not as excited, but we do it. Wednesday comes and even less excited, we do it. We get to week 2 and something happens at work, throws us off, and we stop. What can we do behavior-wise to either prevent that from happening or to immediately get us back on track? So that's kind of what I'm exploring in my dissertation, and how we can apply those things to meet our students where they are, because every student is going to be different and come with different needs and with different learning styles and different motivations, and try to give them something that is as universal as it can be, but that has the potentiality to speak to that student. And so again, I'm looking at, because we are virtual, I'm looking at how we can use words and aesthetics. I've been doing a lot of research on aesthetics that are very purposefully used, and there isn't a whole lot out there. So if anybody finds anything, let me know, because that's the rabbit hole that I'm currently going down. And I'm also going down a user design rabbit hole, because again, I think that always thinking about my son and how his autistic brain works, how can I package something? Because with him, and this is the other thing that I probably should have put on one of the slides. One of the things that I've learned, and again, I'm all about the routine and the routine and the routine, and I will stick to it even when it's not healthy or beneficial or anything like that. But with my son, that's counterintuitive with him. So with him, what works today and what works 2 months from now may not work 2 months and one day from now. And so with him, I've learned that it's all about throwing stuff at the wall to see what sticks and using that until it no longer sticks. So finding new ways of attacking something and giving it to him so that he can thrive is very important. That is why I love that here at PG, revision is so important. Because again, we can do, data analysis. We can do lots of qualitative study to kind of help change as for our students and things like that. So let me see, where are we in time? Okay, so we're exactly kind of where I wanted to be. And I've kind of gone all over the place, and I apologize for that. I have so many thoughts about this, and right now my brain is not functioning in a linear fashion. So I did want to open this up to some discussion with all of you, and it sounds like I've got a lot of folks who have a lot of either firsthand or very close secondhand experience with autism. So I would love to throw this out there. I mean, and some of you live this, but how would your perspective change if tomorrow you woke up and your child or a loved one was autistic? Would it change? If you have an autistic person in your life already, please share your current perspective. I would love to hear that. That's a great question. To the person who asked that, it just says user. I don't want to call you user. So sometimes I don't. I think it helps that I'm an introvert. So oftentimes the Geneva, thank you. Sometimes it stays in my head. But other times it doesn't, and I get visibly frustrated, which is difficult. And this is why this is a good question, because my son and I have always had a very special bond, like beyond special. I am his center. And the whole world could be falling apart, but if I'm good, he's good. So when I get frustrated, all it does is add napalm to his fire. So I've tried to to identify, rather than trying to continue to fit a square peg into a round hole. I've done some parenting research and workshops with the way that I'm wired and the way I tend to react from time to time, because it takes a lot for me to get frustrated or to get upset or angry or whatever. But when it happens, it's really tough for me to settle. That's when my introvert takes over, and I need quiet time. And sometimes Asher, if I tell him, Asher, I need a second, he can't. If he's melting down, he can't. He doesn't compute that. So I'm not getting what I need to just that moment to settle, and which just keeps it going, right? So what I've tried to identify as a parent to my particular type of autistic child is that I need to figure out what gets me frustrated. And it's not his meltdowns. There's usually something outside of that, right? So it's typically when he starts getting to the point where he's going to melt down, but I have a deadline, or I get an email that requires immediate and swift action, or it's a stressful email, or because I can deal with stress, no problem. Or things like that. So trying to mitigate those things and it's helped. But I need to, when I get frustrated, I definitely try to find ways of de-escalating myself, because it's that whole that thing on airlines when you fly in a plane where you get the instructional thing about putting the mask on yourself first and then your child. That's the answer to that question, Janima. It really is. Because otherwise it never goes anywhere. Great, great question. Let's see. Candy has something here. Grocery shopping. Yeah. Yeah. And I have a lot of thoughts on that, Candy, because there was a while there that, um, that I couldn't take him to certain places depending on the day and how he was, how he felt, because, it would be an explosion. Or definitely, I would like to explore more. I want to hear from Stephanie in a minute. But I do want to explore more about daycare and childcare, um, for a child when you have a child, or you're a caregiver to an autistic human, because that's really difficult. That's one of the things that my husband and I go round and round about. We don't do um, overnight trips, just he and I. We don't do, um, we rarely go out. Um, we don't do a lot of things as a couple, which is very important for the balance of the family, right? We don't do that because of that. My dad is too old, and again, I don't know that he is equipped. He's never been equipped to deal with autism. And again, that what you said there, trained, or even willing, right? But anyway, I'm going to zip it so that Stephanie, please go ahead.
Hold on, I'm gonna unmute there. So I definitely get the what you were talking about, Jim and I. My mother-in-law can handle Coop, for a few hours. And we do the occasional overnight thing. At this point, we're more worried about her than we are about Coop. Like he's about to turn 20 this summer. Um, but I did want to say things that used to be so hard for us are not as hard now. So there is hope for those of you like Candy. He had to get blood drawn last week, just routine blood work to see how everything's going. He was a champ. He used to be screaming and yelling, four people holding him to keep him still enough to do it. And he sat down. I had talked to him ahead of time about what we were doing, and he was just calm, cool, and collected. And I thought to myself, this is something that so many parents take for granted, getting a haircut, all of those things that were so hard for so long. And they finally started to get easier. It's taken a lot of years and a lot of, you know, I think ABA helped with that because he's able to communicate things now thanks to his communication device that he couldn't before. Things like, please be quiet, or I don't want to. And it's just been so great to hear him be able to verbalize those things. So just wanted to, there is hope.
That's amazing to hear, Stephanie. I mean, that makes me, I'm getting a little teary, because I've been, Stephanie and I have been in it from the start, sharing about our boys, and that's an amazing, amazing thing. So Christine, please go ahead.
Yeah, kind of along the same line, rehearsing helps a lot. I did a lot of rehearsing with my son on this is where we're going, this is what's going to happen, this is what's going to be expected of you. Let's role play that, let's rehearse that, so that he knew, because a lot of the problem is the not knowing for autistic people. I don't know what's expected of me. I don't know what's going to happen when I'm there. I don't know what people are going to say to me. If you can rehearse all that, it really will help with the meltdowns and, things, and make you less worried about it. Yeah, my son's 24 now, although I'm probably more autistic than he is, but
Well, see, that's interesting, Christine. What works for you when you are with something like that? Do you find that you also need to rehearse? I know that for me, we use the word at our house, we front load. Um, constantly. And I know that I need to do that for myself, especially when there is a challenging day in front of me.
Yeah, rehearsing helps me a lot. It might just be in my head, but yeah, I need to rehearse conversations. I need to rehearse what's going to happen when I'm there. And if something kind of goes outside of my rehearsal, it can be upsetting. It can be difficult to know how to handle it because I wasn't prepared for it. So
Yeah.
yeah, the more you can prepare your kids, the less likely they are to melt down.
Absolutely. And I think that again, that application can benefit because we think about it for autistic kids, right? Well, why not for all kids? Because and for our students, how can we prepare them for the workload and things like that? Because and that's constantly the parallels that I'm making. Or how can I prepare my daughter, who is a fiery, whirling dervish of Batman princess energy? Um, and it's an interesting thing. But yes, I think that getting preparing and things like that. I love Diana, thank you for sharing that your son is 21 now, and things will get better. I think that at all stages of the autism journey, um, it's so important to know that there is hope. And I love what Stephanie said about things that a lot of folks take for granted, is something that's absolutely true. For Asher, it is I did stress out a lot, Stephanie, and I thought of you because I remember our discussions about blood draws for Cooper, when Asher had to have his the first time, and he actually did really well. What he continues to struggle with is um, oral sensory overload, like going to the dentist. He's gotten much better, but right now he's supposed to be getting braces. And I've kind of been ghosting or gaslighting. I can't remember the terms these days. I have not been answering the orthodontist because I don't know how that's going to go. Ghosting, thank you. I don't know how that's going to go. Because it's a long-term thing. It's not like an appointment where, okay, just give it 30 minutes and we're good. No, this is something that's going to go in your mouth and it's going to be there and you're going to feel it, because everything, like food that might be warm to you, is hot or scalding hot to Asher. He gets sores in his mouth all the time. And when he has a sore, I know I'm going to get a call from the school because of behavioral issues. Um, or, I mean, for the longest time, he wouldn't try. He was he ate mac and cheese for almost a whole year. And that's all he would eat. Anyway, I could go on about that. Go ahead, Christine.
I guess two things. One mentioned rehearsing for all children, and I think that's a great idea. I think most behavior problems that happen in public are because a child doesn't know what's expected of them. Parents so often expect children to know what to do and what's expected, and they don't. And those of us with neurodivergent children are better at preparing our children, but all parents should prepare their children for what's expected. And then with the braces thing, I guess just talk to them a lot about what it's going to entail, and talk to the orthodontist a lot about, his sensitivities and what can be done to help with that. And it's just communication helps a lot, I think.
Yeah,
Yes,
no, for sure.
we went through braces with my son, and again, just the talking, making sure he knew every step involved
Yeah.
helped a lot.
Um, as if on cue, the school is calling.